but I was operating in a space of scarcity, and I still can't believe I have a company, a brand. Whereas now I'm like, wow, look what happens when you have a head of growth that's able to flex up and down and go into Sephora and challenge me. Right now, I focus my attention on what's going to drive the business forward or what's going to answer the question that I'm looking for.
Jada, welcome to the show.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me.
I have actually wanted to have you on the show for a long time.
That is insane because we literally ran into each other at like a random New York City dinner.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know who she is. Let me be cool. Play cool, girl.
Yeah.
As soon as I left the dinner, I'm like, we gotta be on the podcast.
Yes. Well, I had just gotten to New York. This was at the very end of 2023. And I remember hearing you speak on a panel at Female Founder World.
Yes.
And I think the panel was related to around motherhood and being a founder. And I think that you were pregnant.
I was pregnant. It was
time.
My second child. Yeah.
But I loved the panel and loved so much of what you shared. So I was like, okay, note to self. We'll get her on the podcast. At that time, you were like pregnant. It wasn't the right time. But I was like, it'll work out when it's meant to work out. So us sitting next to each other at that dinner was perfect.
Yes. It's whatever is supposed to happen truly will happen. And you find your people during this journey. So it's exciting. And thank God you didn't email me because I'm crazy. I probably would have took the call.
Totally get it. I know. Yeah. But I feel like it all worked out perfectly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to talk to you about just who you are, your career trajectory, this amazing company I think a lot of our listeners are probably familiar with, Ami Colé. We all have some of your makeup in our makeup bags right now.
Dream come true.
It's amazing what you're building.
Thank you. I receive it. I'm like, wait, what? Because I'm such a product junkie that I just selfishly want it, and then I get to share it with my friends, and it's crazy how much the internet makes everyone your friend. It's weird. We'll talk about it today, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So before we get into you launching the brand, I mean, your career, even before you started the brand, was iconic.
Thank you.
The resume is fantastic. Everything from Teen Vogue, L'Oréal, Glossier. You worked at some very incredible companies.
I did.
I'd love to go back a little bit further and learn more about where the seed of loving beauty was planted for you.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I am first generation Senegalese American. So my mom came here in late 80s, and my mom is I named the brand after her because she's just a timeless classic. She doesn't want fuss. She wants it to be easy and wants to be the best version of self. And I remember just growing up in the hair salon. She had a hair salon in Harlem, and she was that girl. She was, she was hiring, she was setting the tone, she was the hostess with the mostest, and she would be the type to, and post-COVID, this changed obviously, but when it was time for lunch, she would buy Senegalese dishes and invite everyone to come eat. Everyone in the hair salon, getting your hair braided or braiding hair, come eat. So she always had that sense of community and that sense of selflessness that really inspired me. But I think the funnest part ever is this was the hair salon. So everything came in there from hair trends, makeup, what's in your bag. I would be this, I'm so hyper curious. I'd be watching people reapply their lip glosses and lipsticks. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to the day I can afford a lipstick. So I think I've always been curious about how women use beauty products and beauty as a language. So that's always been the soundtrack of my life, even when I didn't know it. So my love for beauty started very early, but specifically love for Black beauty and how we show up and all the dimensions of us. I realized when I left the bubble of Harlem that wasn't the case. I was like, wait, y'all don't know about what's going on back home? So I think that I've always been in love, always.
I think what's so beautiful about Harlem is that it, for all of its existence, probably has been the center of so much innovation when it comes to art, when it comes to style, when it comes to business.
Yes.
It just is such a nucleus of so much of that.
So wild. It's a couple blocks, but you have, the poetry of it all. You have, graffiti. You have fashion. Come on. So much fashion. But then you have the Apollo Theater right there, right? James Brown, Bruno Mars, Michael Jackson, Jennifer, anybody is coming through that space. And it's just oh my God, it's right across the street. And I was even thinking growing up in Harlem, I think, because I'm now that I have kids, I can't imagine raising kids in the city. But the Schomburg. You know, that was a major Harlem institution that I would go every Saturday, I believe. We had like a Saturday program. It was deeply rooted in arts. Arts was just a part of our language, right? But I realized after watching, I think, something that Chadwick Boseman was one of my teachers. And I was like, wait a minute. Wow. What a privilege, you know, to have such talented humans, you know, teaching and giving back in Harlem. He was a very strict teacher, very serious about, you know, acting and using and just exercising different versions of expression. So like we drew, we painted, we, you know, community gardens and, you know, you always got someone on the stoop telling you like all the historical things that happened. But I think Harlem is interesting too because you have these microcosms of, you know, different cultures. You know, you have East Harlem is, you know, Boricua Central. You know, you have your parades and like, you know, Puerto Rican celebration, and Cuban, and then you have, you know, Senegal, little Senegal within like 2 blocks. Everyone knows each other. But those are your little like worlds. So it was just really interesting being a kid in Harlem. There was a freedom. There was always art. There was always creation. There's definitely a hustle in Harlem that you can't find probably anywhere. So like everyone's hustling. So I love that, you know, growing up.
Yeah. And it sounds like a lot of that is still seen and reflected in so much of what you do today.
Yes. So it's an honor, really, because, you know, sometimes you try to run away from the hustle, but I can't help myself. I'm a New Yorker. I'm from Harlem.
It's in you.
It's in me. Ingrained.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. And I'm sure having kind of a front row seat to your mom's entrepreneurship probably sparked an interest in entrepreneurship for you?
You know what? My mom, for sure. Like, my mom was the boss, right? I mean, mothers, all mothers are.
Yeah.
But it was my dad. Mm-hmm. My dad is like, I've never seen someone so willing to fail. And almost irresponsible. I'm like, you cannot put all of your eggs in one basket. Like, he'll wake up one day, it's like, I'm getting into the trucking business. I am going to, you know, start a travel agency. I am going to do money exchange. And wherever there was opportunity, my dad would at least knock. And he would at least try to figure out, like, how to get in the door, how to figure it out. I had to ask my dad, I'm like, first of all, life is hard. Like, I cannot believe you guys did this. I'm like, how did you get your visa? Like, what made you come here? You didn't speak English. He hadn't graduated, like, I think he stopped middle school, you know, and he wasn't even like of collegiate ascent. And I'm like, how did you do it? And he's like, listen, like, came to New York in the 80s. And, you know, I kept hearing some whispers that if I go to Miami, you know, I could get a visa if I worked on a farm for long enough. And I got to the farm. He went. Wow. I got to the farm in Florida and I realized I didn't want to be a farmer. So I tricked the guy into letting me work in the office. And I became the translator for all the people that were moving and migrating from New York City to Florida. And I became the middleman and the boss, essentially. So my dad would be the type to get in there and then figure out, like, where's my place here and how can I thrive? And before he left the farm, not only did he have his visa and his paperwork, but the guy was trying to hire him and trying to get more people to come and do agriculture at the time. And then he's like, nope, I'm good. I'm going back to New York City. I got what I need. Now, what do I need to do to get my wife here and my kids here? My older sister lived in Senegal for a very long time. And he really figured it out. And I'm always in awe of that. And I think that his audaciousness, even though sometimes it was really wild and sometimes irresponsible, it gave me the vision to dream, because he's a big dreamer. My mom is a little bit more like steady, like, I don't want to take any risks. Like, it took her for a very long time for her to even accept that I was an entrepreneur. She's like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, why would you not stay at L'Oréal with your benefits and your salary? Like, you could have ascended through that rank or that route. So sometimes she's not as happy with me. But my dad really is like the North Star when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Yeah. What amazing qualities that he has that I think are essential for anybody who is either interested in entrepreneurship or who just wants to carve their own path in any way. It's like you can't be afraid to try things and fail.
he's just like, why not me? I'm like, oh, that's a good point of view.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
Yeah.
He's like, do you know how many billionaires or millionaires have didn't go to college? I'm like, he's like, but you need to go to college.
Yeah. Still do it.
Still do it. Yeah. He definitely put a lot of pressure on me to do it the right way, but only to have the tools to be able to have a little bit more freedom and flexibility. But whenever I said I'm quitting and I'm doing this, he's like, great. So when do we start? What do we got to do? I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit more about that transition for you? Because I've heard you mention in interviews and other things before that you had the idea for your own beauty brand a while before you started it. Yeah. I think the earliest after doing my research, I heard you mention 2014 was around the time where you were like, I think that's something that I want to do. And the actual launch date of Ami Colé being in the world was in May of 2021. So can we talk about just that span of time?
Wow.
What was happening for you and what helped you be able to take the leap to put it out there in the world?
Oh my God. People, especially with the internet, think that things happen like overnight, and that, you know, the level of intention that it actually took to put it in the world. And you just get on a treadmill and then you can't stop and you don't have that moment to nurture and have some time with it. But man, for me, again, being a beauty junkie, whenever I could go to CVS, whenever I could walk with my mom to buy fashion fair, I would. And very early on, I knew that they were like, oh, darling, you don't need makeup. Your skin's so beautiful. Your skin is so this. I'm like, so I wasn't even a part of the makeup conversation. And I'm like, but I like makeup. I like applying it. I like to see how my skin does this and that. And, you know, I can achieve this look. So 2014, to paint the picture, I was freshly from the editorial world. It was crazy. Vibe magazine was way too much fun. I literally had to quit because I was having too much fun. I'm like, this cannot be sustainable or scalable. I'm gonna get out of here. And I went back to beauty. So my first boss at Rebecca Minkoff, we kept in contact. Even though I got laid off from that job, I was devastated. But he's like, you know what? Hang in there. If I see anything, I'll let you know. But you know, people say that to be nice. I'm like, this is why it's good not to curse anyone out on your way.
Yep.
So he found me this job. He's like, you know, it's a brand, but you could be hands-on with the founder. I'm like, oh my God. So Temp2 was a brand. They had been, and I knew of the brand before because even in college, I was working at Sephora. It was the first Sephora ever to open in Syracuse. So I was training and I knew of the brand. So fast forward, this is 2012 to 2014, I'm now in the seat and I'm close to the products and I'm close to the product developer and I'm close to the founder and I'm close to the CFO, and like the team is like 10 and you do it all. So at the time it was crazy. They were doing QVC, Sephora, pro makeup artist shows. So pro makeup artists were coming. This is like Flatiron. They were coming in and they had feedback on the shades. I'm like, this is magic. Like, this is what I'm looking for. I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I did this thing? I'm like, girl, you know, like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't have an office on 17th Street. Like, you're not funded or ready for this. But I'd always be like doodling, always be talking to like the head of PD, who is now the head of PD at Ami Colé. Literally all these years later, we'd be just like, oh my God, wouldn't it be cool if you did this and did that? I'm like, oh, it would be a dream to be doing this for myself. I would do a little bit of this. I would take Senegal. I would do that. So I remember, I'm like, where do I start? You know? And I remember, I don't know what website I went on, because I was also close to the designer. I forget her name, but I reached out to this random guy in Italy. I'm like, could you help me design my brand? I want it to be this. I had a whole deck pulled together. I just wanted him to do the logo. He's like, okay, you need to wire me money. And I was Googling, like, if I wire money, what are the chances of me losing my money if this is not a real person? Alessandro, I will never forget. And I sent him maybe $700 at the time, $1,000. And he just gave me iterations of the logo. I'm like, and when I got it, I was like, oh my God, this is real. This could be real. And this is exactly what I'm envisioning. It's sophisticated, it's elevated, but it's also African and rooted in Harlem and all the dimensions there. But I just put it away. And then I got hired to go to L'Oréal. And I think this interesting layers of all of life, because always so many things going on at the same time. Glossier was starting. And I had been a huge Instagloss fan. Like, I was always on the website. Every article that dropped, I like Emily Ferber. I just like, she was my best friend in my mind. And I had been reaching out to them. I'm like, hey, I want to do a top shelfie. Do you think I have content to be able to do an article? In 2014, they were like 2013, they were doing top shelfies with me as the communications assistant at Tem2. Fast forward 2014, Emily Ferber, not Emily Weiss, reached out like, hey, we're doing this secret project I think we're going to make products. I'm like, what? So now I'm being, invited to these secret meetings in Lafayette Canal Street, where everyone's wearing the Glossier, sweatshirts, and I'm walking up this dingy, hallway. And after work, sitting there with Emily Weiss and Emily Ferber, and I think Kelly Wilbur, all these amazing people. And they're like, we're creating products. And I just got even more excited. I'm like, oh my God, like this is cool. But I kept putting it away, not for a bad reason. I just knew I had a lot more to learn about the business of it all. So I needed to get some chops. So I went to L'Oréal to kind of grow up in the marketing space.
Yeah. I think it's so great to be able to share those aspects of the story because kind of like you were saying earlier, people think that everything happens really quickly.
No.
Or that, and I've kind of done this too in some ways, that if you have an idea, you have to execute on it right away or fully see it through right away. And I think that there is something to taking action in some ways. And learning is also a form of taking action. Like understanding the space, learning what you're doing, learning how things run is another form of taking action, as opposed to fully putting something out there and having like no idea what you're doing.
That I love. I love, because I think that suddenly our culture has become so extroverted that you have to be sharing. And there's something about the reclusiveness or the incubation of it all. You're going into the darkness, you're going into the stillness, and the goal is to absorb. And I'm so grateful I did. I mean, all the things that you have the tools in your toolbox. So that's a great point, that learning is action. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And so if we fast forward a little bit, we're past the 2014 mark where you like had the initial idea, you got some logo markups, you're now at L'Oréal. Let's move towards maybe like the 2019, 2020 mark.
Okay.
That was probably where it was like rubber was starting to hit the road.
Yeah.
What was happening around then?
Wow. So 2019, again, from 2020, it's been 5 years. And by then, I'd done the corporate world. So that was L'Oréal. I worked on a very interesting brand. L'Oréal Paris is like the flagship of L'Oréal entities, I would say. So we work very closely with Paris. And I think that I've learned in that space how to move ideas across continents. They're not going to be the same language or playbook sometimes. And it gave me global perspective finally. And then I quit because I don't know if now that I've been burnt out, I don't think burnt out was the thing, because we have to title it correctly. I don't think burnt out was it. I was just frustrated by the speed of go to market or the agility to be able to incite change. I remember when I was at L'Oréal, Fenty launched. And I remember having the same conversations about inclusivity and like the needing to offer these products for her, but it was so hard to implement change, right? It would come like years later. I'm like, I can't do this. And then I went to Glossier and worked there, now as an employee, and learned a lot, but also too quickly. I was overwhelmed. I was drowned. I was, burnt out, because this was like pinnacle paint the town pink Glossier.
Peak at that time. That was peak Glossier.
It was peak Glossier. They moved offices to Soho. Had these fancy designers and like birch, florals in the bathrooms and Byredo candles. It was wild. But then change was happening, especially now I appreciate this more with teen. And they were trying to grow up into a corporate space. So people were coming in from Estée and L'Oréal, and the magic that I fell in love with in 2014 was different. We weren't like, just folded our legs on a Friday over, some drinks and, figuring out product. We were trying to figure out go-to-market, rinse and repeat, scalability, etc. So long story short, I essentially was laid off of that gig. And it broke my heart because I loved the franchise. I really believed in it. And I knew that there was an opportunity to... And this is what I told Emily in my interview. I'm here to help bridge the gap between Glossier and women of color. There's a lot of work to be done here. There was Glossier Brown, which was amazing with Devin's work. From a product side, let's work together. But I don't know if they had the tools and the systems for that. So my team was very young. I think my manager at the time was like 25. A lot of egos, unfortunately. And then when we brought in the big shots, it was just so bureaucratic that it was just hard to do the work. So I never shared that before, but it is the truth. And I left, and then, I had a nice severance, and I was like, you know what? Pause. You did it. You did the L'Oreals. You know what the story is there. You did the now biggest, fastest growing startup world. Like, Jada, what's next for you? I just kept thinking about that logo. I was like, wow, like, wouldn't it be crazy if I did this thing? But I also was a little bit more audacious by 2019. I knew what it was to be in the room. I knew what it was to go to Cosmoprof and talk to a vendor, create a brief, talk to scientists and chemists that are completely different communicators from like your marketing folks, etc. So I learned a lot still, but I was still aching for what I knew was true. Beauty that was complex but still simple and timeless and catered to women of color and clean and all these promises that I still felt was a need. So I booked a solo trip to Thailand, and I think 10 or 12 days, and I was just... Solo tripping is so important because you have to listen to yourself. You have to trust yourself. And I think I've done some solo sprints before, but being in Thailand where everything was different, like in Paris, you still hear a little bit of English and I speak French. So this was like brand new me. And I just kept asking myself, how, why? And I remember like, it was so dramatic. I was listening to like Nipsey Hussle and like the hustle of it all.
Sometimes you got to lock in.
I was locked in. I was like Nipsey Hussle, Erykah Badu. So all the feng shuis. And I came back. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to launch this thing. I remember walking from some meeting, going to the West Side Highway for a party, and I was just turned on my camera. I'm like, guys, would you be on this ride with me if I started a company? And do you want me to share? Do you want me to wait until it's done? Like, what do you want from me? Because I know I'm going to need help, and I know I'm going to need community. So like, I'm just putting it out there. What do you think? Didn't think much of it. Went to the party, had a good old time, and I came back, DMs flooded. Oh my God, we've been waiting for this. Like, please do it. I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. I don't know where to start. Like, please do something and let's see. I was like, okay. So 2019 is summertime. I am hungry. I'm burnt out. No, I'm recharged now because I'm back from Thailand. But I'm also heartbroken because my dream job didn't work out. I'm like, God, what are you trying to tell me? Like, a little bit of imposter syndrome because I saw it up close, like how much money and how much team and all the things that you needed to succeed. So I had an imposter syndrome maybe, but really just scared, really scared. But I operate in fear. So yeah, that was my 2019 in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. What a amazing way to alchemize a tough situation to turn into the launching pad of something else.
Yeah, similar to learning, right? It's like, what do I take in and what is my desired output? I could have easily been like miserable and like churning and turning to things that were not an outlet and just bottling it up a little bit. But at its core, I'm really a creative, and I like to create, and I like to ideate, and I love to dream. So I knew I could not. I tried to, without therapy, I tried to understand like, hey God, what are you trying to tell me here? I'm ready to receive it. And I will listen. I told God, I will listen to the signs. I will listen to the signs and I will action on them. So if you want me to post, I'll post. If you want me to, go to Cosmoprof because my credit card limit, increased miraculously, I'm like, okay, going to Cosmoprof. And then things started to like open up a little bit with ease, to allow me to incubate. And I was like, that was a blessing. Like thinking back in those years, I was like in my element. I loved it.
I love that. You were able to find a groove.
Yes. A groove, and also learn how to trust myself. Trust myself, because I knew product. I knew that I, could create products that my girlfriends would love, because I was always the girl. I was like, girl, what soap do I use for this? I'm like, oh, you're going to do this, and that. So I developed a level of trust. And then again, looking at my mom, I always knew that in some capacity, I would be of servitude to Black women. I would hold space for Black women always. So I trusted that kind of light, and I stood in it, which takes courage, but I was ready for that.
I love that so much. So at that point, when you decided, okay, I'm going to move forward with this brand that has been put on my heart to create, what was the next step? What was what felt like the first real step towards getting started?
Yes. I think the first real step was two, one of which I'm like, whatever. Because, when you start a business, whenever you're talking to a business-minded person, they're like, oh, but what's your business plan? I have thoughts on that, because as you can see, TikTok shops was not a thing in 2019, right? Things move so rapidly. I think what I needed to understand, and I knew what the next steps were, was what does this look like? What does it feel like? What emotions do I want to emote or, evoke? And you'll see this constant mood board of mine that I, always share with people, because it was my home base. Whenever I would rear off a little bit, I'll come back. I'm like, no, this is home for me. I want soft armor. I want, saturated colors. I want skin forward. I don't want hot yellow, glosses. I want it to be understated and a little bit of muted, because I want to allude to a sense of confidence. I think of Felicia Rashad. I've never seen her in a bright yellow lip, and that's okay. And that's my version of excellence, right? I wanted to think about what timeless meant for me. And I had to reimagine a lot of it, because let's be real, we haven't been trained to think about that from a Black beauty, African beauty perspective. When you think of laissez-faire and easygoing, you think of French Paris girl. Oh my gosh, she just woke up like this. But we never really had permission to do so. And I thought that was really interesting. So I had to unwire a lot of my messaging and positioning. But I knew I had to get the DNA right. I had to dream up scenarios like, okay, what's the best thing that could happen to me? A random Brooklyn day, and imagine a world where 5 people from across the room are taking out their lip treatment oil, and together we're in unison. And that has happened. Building community to be able to kind of pass that, wand and be able to listen to each other and other brands that I would want to sit on a shelf with. I really needed to better understand that. So that summer specifically, I spent a lot of time surveying. So I would be doing crazy things like, I will meet you at your house. They're like, girl, I'm tired. I'm like, no, just let me come over. I'll cook for you. I would go over and I just ask questions so what are you using? How do you use it? What shade in this? And okay, what don't you like about it? What do you like about it? And it kind of grew as my curiosity grew. I'm like, okay, I got my friend who is a no makeup girl. I've got the makeup girlies. I've got my influencer friends now, because this is my background. I've got my editor friends now. What are the commonalities there? And the thesis really was that I've been hacking my way to the top. I mix a little bit of this, I do a little bit of that, but I haven't found a home brand for me. And especially coming from the world of Glossier, I'm always thinking okay, if I were to wear a sweatshirt of a brand, would I want to be a makeup brand that I love like that? And I knew that I didn't have that, So community, what I would want this party to look like if I were to host a party, who would I want in this space with us? What kind of products to start with? At least having a footing on okay, what would be the first introduction of this brand? And just visual. I remember I lived in a Brooklyn, loft style, with beautiful neighbors, and my sister will ask you, she was my roommate during this time, but 2:00 in the morning, you just hear crimpling in the living room. I got mood boards in my bedroom. My cabinet in the bathrooms are all samples. That, it was everything. I woke up every day and I lived it and I dreamt it and I felt it, and it was madness, but it was also so beautiful. And But every time I walk out that apartment, if I went to a pitch meeting, I knew exactly who I was talking to. I knew exactly what I wanted to launch. I knew exactly data insights, community foreseeing, I guess you could say, and then a product offering. So I already knew it. So it gave me a sense of confidence. But I needed to start with knowing, what am I doing, why, and for who.
So key. So key for anybody who wants to start a business or brand.
Yeah.
So helpful.
I loved it.
Yeah. And you do such a good job of having such a great pulse on both the data and the creative. I think sometimes we can want to sell ourselves short to put ourselves in one box or another and be like, oh, I'm a data girl, or oh, I'm a creative girl. But we can embrace both. And I think especially if you're entrepreneurial, you have to. You have to learn.
1,000%. I mean, there's so many case studies now. I was just listening to a podcast on, just the state of Pat McGrath and artistry, and how do you commoditize art, right? Which is a very difficult thing, especially if you're a true artist, where you don't want to touch the money. You just want to give. But you're like, wait a minute, I want a nice house. Data centricity has always been a part of my DNA. I'm a Virgo moon. So, I'm always looking for the why. My Sagittarius, though, is the dreamer. I'm like, I'll go, whatever. Let's go to Peru today. No problem. So the spontaneity comes there. But I think specifically in the spot that I sat in, 2019, I believe there were only 20 Black women that raised over $1 million. Which is insane. Obviously, we've made strides this year. Last year is a little different. We've made strides towards progress, but I knew that if I wanted to protect this dream of mine, I had to insulate it with data. I had to root it with hard facts of how to scale this. I had to showcase, unfortunately, this audience that they never had access to. They have no idea. The questions that I've heard, it was just like so crazy. I'm like, well, there was already a Fenty, so why would you need to exist? I'm like, what? How many cars do you drive? How many cars do you own? Let alone drive, let alone there's just, Adidas and Nike and this, so many tales of why we need optionality. And you'll be surprised, especially when you're raising capital, how much you have to teach them. So I had to teach them the market opportunity, of course, the total addressable market. I had to teach them the stats, the staggering stats of two things: overall Black women's health, the products we were using, the level of toxins, and when you find out to change that course of action, possibly in your 30s and 40s, when you're probably thinking about fertility, family planning, and just living healthier. I had to share those staggering stats. I believe 1 in 12 beauty products are considered toxic or catered to us, and more studies, especially when it comes to hair care. And then also I had to share just the context of growing up in Harlem. These women are not unicorn. They are real. They are loyal. They just haven't had the brand to talk to them. They haven't built trust. This industry has often left them out of it. You can't just suddenly turn on the lights and they're just like, oh, okay, I want to party here, because they have their habits and routines. So it takes a level of patience to get her to walk into a Sephora or into an Ulta when she might have been used to a beauty supply store and now has Amazon. She doesn't have to, be worried with someone not shade matching her correctly. So a lot of it is teaching as well, which I didn't know. But that is always data centric.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you launched in 2021, how many products did you launch with?
We launched with 3.
Yeah.
So we had the skin tint. Excuse me. Now we have a stick, so I'm always like, skin tint. It was the lip treatment oil, and it was the highlighter. Cool. All very fuss-free. Didn't need to have an expert to come teach you. Very purposely, because we launched on .com, and I know how hard it is to shop for. It's like trying to find the perfect pair of jeans online. On first go, it's very big pressure. So the skin tint offered that flexibility. The lip treatment oil offered, everything that we love about a lip gloss, because we know we love lip gloss. But also the care of it, the lasting, the hydration, hydration, the sheen, all of the lovely things of the lip treatment oil now. And the highlighter, which I selfishly always wanted, but I used to be a brunch girly. And I just remember stumbling at a brunch and always oh my God, there goes the light. I would have my selfie and doing stories. I'm like, oh, everyone getting a picture. The lighting is perfect. So I created this highlighter that really catches the light and you really are feeling yourself as a girl or a guy. And those were things that were just important. So we started off with a very, very curated assortment before moving into other categories.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how did you know when it was time to expand into other categories? Mm-hmm. Was it things that you were already planning to do? Mm-hmm. Was it feedback from customers of what they wanted to see next? Mm-hmm.
I think the original process was quite slow because everyone was just so excited. Listen, at this time, 2019, I've been talking about this. So let's talk about time again. The girls are girl, is this coming or not? I am tired of talking about this make-believe brand.
But it takes a long time to develop and formulate and get that takes time.
The internet doesn't know. You'll be very surprised how much you have to teach. So that's why I was so transparent because people were growing like Ruth, the girl.
I actually think 2 years. Actually, it's good, kind of fat.
Thank you. I was working.
Yeah.
I was treating it like a full-time job, even though I wasn't getting paid. But so other categories is actually an interesting question because when it comes to data and the beauty industry, mascara is the place you don't touch. People know and love their mascara. They're not moving away from that. And there was just so many great options on the market and super accessible. You can walk into any Duane Reade to pick up a L'Oreal Infallible, or Great Lash by Maybelline, the classic bottles. Don't touch that. And I'm like, nope, gonna touch mascara. And that I had aspirations for, but it was really, I was being agile with COVID. People were now home and now wearing masks, so it didn't make sense to offer face or lip. And I just wanted to be a part of her routine. And I know personally, I was doing mask and mascara. I'm like, I think I might do a mascara next. So I sought out to just find the cleanest mascara to give me volume, to give me separation, to also be an inky black. Because I've noticed with my skin tone, sometimes I wear mascara and you can't even tell because the color was a little bit of an ashy black and not an inky jet black. So it doesn't show up on camera. So whenever I would go on camera, I would have to wear falsies. I'm like, but what if I had a mascara that could do all these things to hold it, but also be able to kind of live with her? I'm always thinking about her and her journey. And I didn't know when the masks were going away. So I'm like, if you're going to do it, it's either brows or, mascara. And I found a really great, base, kind of formula to play around with. I'm like, I think we're going to do mascara. And people advise me not to. But the people that love the mascara. I'm like, you're my people. But that was driven by life, honestly, and innovation. But then later we started to get some muscle memory from our audience, and they were very vocal about what they wanted next. And we were kind of able to fill out her basket in her makeup routine, which was very fun.
Yeah, yes. It is. It's been also really fun to watch.
Thank you.
Yeah, from the sidelines. I would also love to talk about Sephora and Ami Colé entering Sephora and your relationship. First of all, I think it's also a really cool full circle moment that you worked at Sephora in college and that you now have this brand that is truly a Sephora darling. It's just been really cool to see the brand's expansion in Sephora has been just really beautiful to see.
Thank you.
So from going from .com, selling on your own website, to transitioning to also having presence in Sephora, what was that like?
Scary. Even when we were on shelf, I didn't believe it. I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean you left the warehouse? A couple of things, yeah. I am a beauty junkie, I must say. So Sephora was always home for me. I am the annoying friend that let's go to Sephora. Girl, can we just go to our destination? I would be zigzagging, discovering, exploring. So truly, when I launched the brand, even as I was kind of creating it, I knew the ideal retailer that I wanted. Didn't know how, but I just knew that Sephora was definitely on my wish list. And it's still insane to walk into Sephora and to see the brand on shelf. So the experience getting into Sephora was the ultimate high. there's like spurts, because first you have your logistics. So the planning of like when to get things into the warehouse and so forth. And then you have the go to market. Like, what are you going to do to let people know that you're in Sephora? I mean, the way the community was just so proud, it just made you feel like it filled my cup. And I think even if the journey ended there, I'm like, for those who are not beauty junkies, for those who are just entrepreneurs, for those who are first generation, that's a major milestone. To be a brand at this age, at this stage, to be able to create something sure enough, trusted enough to gain shelf space. And at the time, I think I wasn't a part of the Accelerate program. They have like an Accelerate program. So I had just missed the mark. And for me, just like a funny tale, I had an investor that introduced us. Entrepreneurs will always say us. It's just me. Introduced me at the time to the Sephora team. And I just happened to be traveling, and the service was crappy. And I lost signal in the middle of my presentation, and I could not get back on the phone even to tell them that my signal had gone out. So they have no idea. So I was like crying. I was like, they're never going to take me. This is my one chance. Again, what's for you is for you. And I just like stopped even talking. They didn't even respond. Afterwards, they're like, okay, well, send us the products and we'll test it out and we'll give you feedback on the brand. I'm like, no, girl, I'm trying to be on the shelf. So I waited a couple of months before, I kid you not, that call happened in July. And then I started talking to another retailer, because, you know, you want to go where they want you. And they were really excited to carry the brand. And I was like, I was doing it, but I know that I wasn't like my first choice, because I knew. And the reason why, again, being a Sephora girly, of course, but also brand building is very important to me. And I wanted to find a partner that would be able to really stretch me in ways that I felt comfortable with. And I know Sephora could do that. So fast forward, as fate would have it, it's now December. I am pregnant with my first child, and I'm like waddling down to Rockefeller Center because we had won Brand of the Year award or Entrepreneur of the Year award in WWD. Now, this is a very big, high-profile breakfast that happens every year. All the who's who win an award, and it was a very, very big milestone for the company and the brand. I'm in this room accepting the award, and guess who's in the audience? Sephora. So Allison Hahn is like, didn't we have a call or something? I'm like, yes, we did. But I dropped the call because I was in Senegal and literally the electricity went out. She's like, what? I'm like, yes. And she's like, I've been trying to get in contact with the team, but they haven't been too receptive. So we've been moving on to another retailer. She's like, no, let's have the conversation. Even if you don't go with Sephora, which I think you should with your branding, I think you should just at least ask for the world, because you're going to need that. I'm like, okay. So I just told her, my margins and all this stuff. She's like, you know what? I'll write you an offer right now to take the brand. I'm like, what? After like 7 months of crying and grinding and trying to get the connect, and just so happened that December, and listen, it was one of those like pregnancy. I was like 8 months pregnant, waddling, like face not even recognizable. I'm like, I gotta go to this event. And lo and behold, Allison Hahn and Artemis were both there, and they're like, oh my God, we love your brand. Fate has it. And then we signed the contract in like 4 weeks.
Wow.
And we launched in like, oh no, we took our time, because I think they wanted us to launch like yesterday. I'm like, no, we got to place like POs and things. And we launched that year, the next year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Fate.
Yeah.
That's why you got to stay ready.
Yeah,
you never know.
What's for you is for you.
What's for you is for you. And I think I've been able to kind of move through that, because you cannot tell me 5 years ago that I would have had a brand, that it would have been a Sephora, that my mom would even be proud. My mom's a very tough cookie to like, get her happy. So you have to trust the universe, but you also have to do the work. The work got me into that room. The work got me the connections. The work got me the product, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that it's been a major entrepreneurship. It's been a major lesson for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about that, but actually, with us talking about Sephora, there's something else that I would love to ask. I think that there's been a lot of conversation right now about the best way to support our favorite brands, particularly if they're women-owned brands or Black-owned brands or Black women-owned brands. We've seen that conversation happen a lot with the situation happening with Target.
Yes.
Some of the ways that the brands that they carry have been hit hard. So when we want to support our favorite brands like yours, what is like the best way for us to go buy our product? Is it to support directly from your website? Is it to walk into Sephora? Is it to order from Sephora.com? Does it matter? Is there one that helps more than another?
Yes, what a great question. I always feel so confused by it because I'm going to walk you through the science of it.
Okay, yeah.
So we get the most money as a brand from our .com. Those margins are super healthy, so you can get, two things, which is very rich data. I know exactly who came to order what and how, and I can give her the experience, the packaging, the unwrapping, the tissue paper, the stickers, all of that I can give you. The issue though is like shelf space is like a ticking time bomb. And if you're not productive, they can give you the boot, no matter how great your D2C is. Now, if your D2C is healthy enough that you can afford to leave Sephora, by all means. There are certain brands, I think Nutrafol is an example, where Sephora is icing on the cake. That's just cherry on top. Most of their business is Amazon, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Amazon and D2C. And that's a powerful place to be. When you're an indie brand and Sephora, quote unquote, takes a chance on you, they want to see that you can be able to be productive. So it's a tough question because you want her to walk into Sephora to say, hey, I have your vote of confidence. But by the time the dollar gets to us, it's a little like not too much to be able to funnel the rest of your marketing and all this stuff. So typically for a business, every dollar in is more money that you have to play with marketing to get even more customers. In many ways, Sephora could be a marketing touch point for you because you're going and you're getting shade match if you're trusting the BA in that experience of it all. But when it comes to the life cycle of a company, if you're closer to the end of your life cycle, you probably need every cash and every dollar in the door to then be able to drive more momentum. What's been happening to get really geeky about marketing is that TikTok has become the new discovery tool. She's going to TikTok and you notice, I'll give you a classic example. Jackie Aina posted about Ami Colé on TikTok, and I was expecting a direct hit to sales on our D2C. Instead, I saw a huge halo effect on Sephora. So Sephora stores. So we waited a whole week. I'm like, wow, I'm surprised that didn't do as much. And then we got those results. I'm like, whoa, okay, she's driving Sephora sales. So it's interesting to watch the consumer journey because what you really need and what I would encourage, which is actually free, is to talk about the brand on the most discovery channels, which is TikTok. You discovered the brand, you love the brand, this is TikTok, they're available all these places, go and purchase. The woman probably going to Sephora has points, that they want to rack up. They have other things in their bag that they want to buy. And now they can try Ami Colé. The person going to Amazon is like, actually, I got an event tomorrow. I don't think convenience is really important for her. The person going to AmiColé.com wants to learn more. She wants to understand what is the brand, what is the company, which one should I get? Like maybe I saw Jackie post about the pink one, but maybe I want the brown one. So you can control the experience a little bit more. But what I can't control is the use cases of each of those channels. And what I can do is like funnel in as many people as possible to talk on TikTok. Hence why we have like influencer strategies, seeding strategies. The goal is to get her at least sparked to convert somewhere else. So it's a very, very tough question, and it really depends on the brand because some brands don't even touch their D2C. They're all Sephora, and they're all banking on that person walking into Sephora. So keep asking those founders, like, where are you? How can I support? But really, it's like kind of thinking about that chamber of commerce that's now happening, that's brand new, where a lot of it is coming in through discovery platforms like TikTok. and micro influencers and macro, of course, Jackie, the queen.
Yeah. It is so interesting to see customer behavior and user behavior in that sense, because then, from that example that you gave, you could say, okay, then Jackie's audience is one that is heavily Sephora shoppers. That's the habit that they already have. So they took her recommendation, applied their habit to it, and then you saw that spike in sales coming from Sephora. It's just super interesting.
It's interesting and it's dizzying because it's evolving all the time. The past year, is TikTok going to stay? Is it going to go? I've had friends that have had massive success. I think one brand friend has made $7 million a month on TikTok.
Wow. Through TikTok shop sales?
Through TikTok shop sales. And that, determines your hiring habit, your marketing habit. Are you live all day? And it works for them. But what happens if that turns off? I think where I struggle a little bit more as a creative is that Ami Colé took some time. There's a level of intentionality that I struggle. And if you can see even on my Instagram, I'm not great. At TikTok, I'm not great on TikTok because I have so much to say. Not so much, not to drag it on, but I do think the way that the thumbs are moving, you got 2 seconds and that's it. And I think a lot of brands are getting lost in that kind of churn. Number one, the scalability of it is very, very tough. It's a machine, it's like a money jack machine. You put in a couple dollars and you get rich. You can stay at that slot machine for a very long time. If you don't have the resources and capital, the other channels are expense to that, because I think Amazon is actually a huge opportunity, especially for us. And then there's always the behind the scenes beef of Sephora's no, I want the launch first. And this person's I want the launch first. And this person's we want you off of Amazon. We want you only on Sephora. So there's a lot of contention that happens on what is the right channel, to my point earlier. But I'm worried about brands that are not trend-led and trend-driven. And they're not... if I think of Ami Colé as a feeling, it's it's literally the best friend next door that you always want to go and hang out with after school. That's your home and comfort. It's like a comfort food. How do you take that and put it into a machine to have it be still intentional and have it be as authentic as possible? Not saying it's impossible, but even in the possibility of it, I've talked to some agencies where okay, we can totally do this. I think it's so easy. We're going to give these talking points and this and that, and we're going to see 20,000 creators a month. I'm wait, what? You want me to do what? So I think my team and I have been struggling on how to get that going, because the goal of TikTok, honestly, is to become viral. And thank God, we've had some viral products, but that's because someone loved it and talked about it on TikTok, not really machined or manufactured from
organic,
us.
Often when
it's
that happens.
Very organic. A lot of our traffic is still organic, which is frustrating for investors because they're what is the lever that we turn on to get more? I'm love? And they're no, girl. So it's tough. It's tough for me. Honestly.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that though, because I think people may see bits and pieces of a brand raised this much money or a brand is now in every Sephora shelf and think okay, everything is gravy. And those are incredible achievements to make. And when you get to those levels, then there's new complexities and new puzzles to solve at every level that you reach.
Absolutely. The pressure continues. The pressure chamber continues to rise. And again, it depends, because some founders are listen, I got 5 years in and out. Give me on the next venture. And I guess that really wasn't my thing. I was okay, we'll do this, 7 to 10 years and it'll be global. I'm a little naive, but I think that, and I'm talking even luxury brands. I have a couple of friends that have luxury oils that, are costing anyway from $185 to $200, but the whole company ethos is that we don't have 25,000 SKUs. We have one SKU and it works really well for you. But the reason why it works well also because it's a great product, and these grapes and the ingredients in this actual product takes time to harvest. And people are what? I can't get this in New Jersey for $2 and cheaper. So sometimes the machine and the art gets a little contentious because I do think that I'm very intentional about what I want to build and for why, like for who rather. And it can be some tough conversations on the inside from retailers, honestly, too. You know, if it were up to them, we'd be sold out and then available again, back in stock. But give you an example. Skin stick, you know, that was like a big bet for us. Foundation is always a very big and very risky business to go into because if you think about it, you have one shelf. If 16 of those holes are complexion sticks, then whoa, you need to make sure every single complexion stick is being sold at the same velocity. And if you think about it, which is very ironic, the deeper skin tones actually for me sell slower at Sephora. They're data people only. They're like, we don't want any more of your deeper shades. We want all of your lighter shades. I'm like, we don't represent that as a brand. So now we're in trouble.
That goes against your whole ethos. I really appreciate you sharing that because I think it shows how much being a founder, working in this space, creating something new, it's like a puzzle that you're constantly solving for with so many different levers all at once.
Wild.
For you, how do you decide what to focus on at any given time? And what does focus mean to you?
That's a very excellent question because I had trouble with that. I was thinking about this too. Like, like when someone asked me, like, did you know that the brand would be here? I'm like, no, I was just trying to get it off the paper and off my mind and like out of my heart and create the product. And when I saw the tube, I was like, okay, I'm done. It's like, this is the tube that I'm done. But there's always so much to do. You always feel like you're understaffed. You always feel like if you're not prioritizing correctly. And I had to hire a COO, CFO. She, you know, has both titles, thank God, because she's able to tell me, based off the business impact, I need you to focus here to be able to drive this. And that's like unlocked for me. I'm like, oh, great. So I know to focus on Sephora relationship, to focus on hiring, focus on firing, unfortunately. You know, a lot of my job, unfortunately, no shade, but investor facing, you know, I'm taking monthly meetings, you know, keeping things warm, networking and all that stuff. That's time. I'm not at my computer. But I'm an operator. Like I get the things done, you know. I didn't have a head of PD until after I launched my products. Like I was going to Italy to go and make these things. So when you are coming from operating that way, it's hard to shift that gear. Like, girl, you cannot be in a PD call, marketing call with the agency on daily CAC spends. Like, you cannot be in the nitty gritties, but also expect to have seismic strategic change for this establishment. Like, I need to be always thinking year 1, 2, 3. And that can be challenging, especially when, to be transparent, you don't have maybe the team to be able to trust to do that because you're still finding yourself to be needing to be in certain meetings or to get, you know, certain things done, which taught me a lot about hiring. You know, I think that hiring smart and efficiently early is very important. And I think I was operating in a space of scarcity sometimes where I'm like, you want to work here? Wow. Like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. Like I was not paying them market value. But I was operating in a space of scarcity and I still can't believe I have a company, a brand. Whereas now I'm like, wow, look what happens when you have a head of growth that's able to kind of flex up and down and go into Sephora and think about 360 channel allocations and challenge me on like, no, we're not doing TikTok because you actually know that we need to see 20,000 influencers. And do you know what that means from a unit economics perspective? I'm like, okay. Before, you know, not so much. So I think right now I focus my attention on what's going to drive the business forward or what's going to answer the question that I'm looking for. You know, what is the fate of Ami Colé? You know, what retailer makes the sense? What channels make the most sense? So I spend all of my energy there. And I'm not good at this, but I'm trying to get better at content. I was talking to you this about dinner. Like you're doing all the operations. You're like, wait, I got to change and look decent because I got to go and talk to the audience, you know? I still haven't had time for that just yet, but I think that the goal will be to be able to talk to the people that I started this company for.
I do think that that's something that's really interesting that has shifted over the past couple of years where consumers really want to know who is behind this, and they kind of expect the founder of the brand to be kind of the OG influencer for what's happening. And that almost now is a norm, where a few years ago that wasn't necessarily the case. We didn't always know who the founder was behind something, and now or sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't, and the founder could kind of choose if they wanted to play that role. And now it's like more of an expectation.
Absolutely. I think that before it was a cherry on top, like, oh wow, that seems like a decent human being. But now it's like, no, and I think it's because there's so many options that they want to understand, who do I trust with this dollar that I have, right? People are people. They tend to feel more empathetic towards someone who's actually putting her blood, sweat and tears into something. They want to know that I'm a working mom. They want to know that, I got married and I did all these things. And I don't blame them, even though it can be taxing as a founder, but I have my boundaries too. But I understand, because the market is so saturated that you needed to kind of gain that trust. But in the age of like forward-facing, camera ready TikTok, Instagram, Reels, stories, like, people need to be able to connect with you. And I don't blame them.
Yeah, it is one of those things that it's just kind of the nature of it. Like, my version of that is, I started this podcast in 2018. And in 2018, there were no video. There was no video. I was recording in my bedroom closet. I started a podcast because I didn't want to be on camera. Come 2020, 2021, it's like you have to. If you want your podcast to continue to like grow, evolve, reach new people,
crazy, right?
It's got to be on YouTube. People don't listen to podcasts anymore; they watch them. So I had to be like, okay, if you want to keep doing this, you're gonna have to get your butt in front of a camera. It's not 2018 anymore.
Maybe.
So you can complain about it, or you can have a shift where this is the industry I'm in. If I'm gonna stay in it, I'm gonna evolve with it. And now I don't complain about it anymore. But for a minute, I was salty about it.
I understand and empathize with that. Of course, have your boundaries. I've learned now to take care of myself, but you just have to be prepared to do the job sometimes. And for a lot of founders, even for myself, sometimes it's to have a bad day, but still turn your camera on and say, hi, I'm here to talk about Ami Colé and all those things. But I empathize with celebrities a little bit more, because I'm like, damn, you can't even get a sandwich outside. You just being bombarded by the paparazzi. I'm like, I feel bad. But I'm blessed, because this is our work.
Yeah. And it's amazing work.
Thank you.
Jada, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I feel like we need like a part 2 or something, because I have like 1,000 more questions.
So many questions. And you know what? This journey is evolving.
Yes.
So, let's see where the universe takes us. I'm happy that we connected. And that's why I'm like, we're going to connect. And literally right next to
we were sat right next to each other at this dinner. Yes. So where can our listeners find you, keep in touch with you, support you?
Absolutely. So we have, I guess my Instagram handle is so embarrassing, but it's just DIARRHAXO. Obviously, this is a very long time. I'm like, girl, hugs and kisses. Okay. Before I was an entrepreneur. But Ami Colé. So by BY, Ami Colé, AMICOLE, on all channels, I believe. We're mostly active on Instagram, but definitely getting TikTok up and running. And I'm always there, always emailing and DMing people. I love community, so I'm always talking back whenever I can, because inspiration comes from everywhere, which is so lovely. But yeah.
Amazing. We'll make sure that we have you linked in the show notes, that we link to all things Ami Colé in the show notes. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.